Wait a minute. Jesus died on Friday and rose on Sunday. That is not 3 days and 3 nights. And I understand the confusion, because we are reading the story like modern people with digital clocks, calendar apps, and the ability to argue about things on the internet at 2 in the morning. We count time very precisely. If something is not 72 hours, we feel like the math is wrong. But the people in the Bible were not using 21st century math. They were using Jewish timekeeping, and Jewish culture counted days very differently. In their world, any part of a day counted as a full day. If something happened even late in the afternoon, that portion of the day still counted. Which means the timeline actually made perfect sense to the people who lived it. Jesus died on Friday afternoon, around the 9th hour, which we would call about 3 o'clock. Because the Sabbath was about to begin at sunset, his body had to be buried quickly. Joseph of Arimathea placed him in the tomb and the stone was rolled across the entrance before the Sabbath began. That portion of Friday counted as day 1. Saturday came next. The Sabbath passed with the tomb sealed and guarded. That entire day counted as day 2. Then early Sunday morning, before the sun was fully up, the women came to the tomb and found the stone rolled away and the tomb empty. That portion of Sunday counted as day 3. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. 3 days. The New Testament actually repeats this phrase over and over again. Jesus said he would rise on the 3rd day. The disciples later said, "It is now the 3rd day since these things happened." Paul wrote that Christ rose on the 3rd day according to the scriptures. Now sometimes people bring up the verse in Matthew where Jesus says, "Just as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the fish, so the Son of Man will be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth." And again, to our modern ears that sounds like a literal 72-hour stopwatch. But in Jewish speech, 3 days and 3 nights was simply an expression meaning 3 days. It shows up in the Old Testament the same way. It was a normal way people talked about time. The people listening to Jesus would not have pulled out a sundial and started calculating hours. They would have understood exactly what he meant. And I will be honest, I do not entirely understand why this is the one people feel the need to correct me about so often. First of all, picking apart minute details like that kind of misses the point of the story. We are talking about the resurrection of Jesus Christ, the moment death itself lost the argument, and somehow the discussion turns into calendar math. Second of all, Jesus literally told us that faith was supposed to look a lot more like the faith of a child. Children hear that Jesus died and rose again and they accept it with wide eyes and joy. They do not immediately start trying to audit the timeline like they are reviewing records. 2,000 years later we are standing here arguing about the counting of the days while the actual miracle is sitting right there in front of us. Because the real headline of the story is not how the days were counted. The real headline is that a man who was very publicly executed on a Roman cross walked out of his own tomb 3 days later. The stone moved, the grave lost, death lost, and if you ask me, that is the kind of math that matters.